Hello everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel, Art Classes My Way. We are going to continue with this little project here, and as you've seen in the beginning of the video, do pardon the state of my fingernails. I have not gotten the chance to clean them up, and if I put off doing this video any longer for a variety of things, everything's been going wrong today, then I am afraid that I'm just not going to have the energy any longer to go ahead and make this video right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue, and I'll worry about it later on. So where we last left off pretty much was here. The only thing that I have done is I've made this wire come round, and as you can see, he's just come up, wrapped himself around, and he's just hanging free back here right now. That's all you've missed. I haven't done anything else with this piece. And to continue on, and thank you to the individual in the comments section who told me what this particular, get a hold of my beads here, what this particular method is called. This wire weaving is apparently called heading. I'm going to take her word on that. While I can do just about any kind of jewelry smithing, doesn't mean I always necessarily know the exact terms of it, especially when it comes to wire weaving. Even though I went to college for jewelry smithing, wire weaving by the teacher was kind of viewed as crafts only, and it wasn't an art form, and she didn't want it in her in her class, so wasn't really allowed to do it. Now I'm out of school and I can do this all I want, but because of that, I really don't know all the terminologies and things like that for wire weaving and whatnot, but it is called heading, I guess. And we are going to continue onwards. Now, these two guys you see in the back, they're really not going to be a part of what I'm going to be doing here, and I better check and make sure these beads even fit on this wire here. Fingers crossed. And that would be a big negative. I don't know how much it's going to take. Okay. We'll do an experiment, I'm thinking. I'm going to take you. I could probably use this for something else. I'm going to put them all out of my way. Hooray for scraps. Now, I kind of showed you how to do something like these in a previous video, so there. And I'm just going to give it a light mush. Just kind of straighten him out. He's not going to be a prominent feature or a prominent piece in this at all. He is just a base wire that isn't really even going to be seen. Yep. And that fits just fine, even with all those little kinks in there. So I'm going to go ahead and finish straightening this. I'm probably asking for a world of trouble here, since this wire's not going to be sturdily connected to this whole piece. And just, I mean, I can attach it when I'm done and make sure that it is 100% safe and okay, and it's not going to ruin, you know, that it's not going to fall apart or anything along those lines. But getting from point A to point B, as far as the weaving goes, can be rather difficult when you have a random loose wire. Alright, that ought to do. So I'm going to put a little bit of a hoop on one end, and that's just going to hold the beads on for me while I string them. Or as I string them, I should say. Alright. Yep, go on. There we go. Now, this green wire, which is left over from when I did all this in the back, is going to be continuing the weave down this way, so that way I end up with more green on the front. When you have more red and less green, and it ends up kind of feeling more Christmassy. When I was thinking of this piece, I was thinking more of a bush with red berries and green, and then later on it hit me. Oh yeah, Christmas. Whoops. So I am slowly trying to work that out of this. So you are going to kind of go here, get everything ready to get the weaving going. And I want to go ahead and give this a little bit more of a behavior like a head pin for now. Just so that way I have something I can physically grab a hold of and get rid of a little later. And really where I want most of my weaving to be done is between these two silver wires here. And hopefully this makes it, perhaps makes it a little bit easier to see exactly what I am doing. So this guy's just going to be kind of hanging loose here, but I want him in between so that way there is a very specific spot, worst case scenario, that he does fit in. So while it gets started here, he is there. I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to go ahead and begin my weave. And it's going to be pretty simple for the time being. Just going to go around and around both wires. And I'm going to try to clip them a little bit so that way they get a little closer to each other. And the green wires not being stretched over a wide gap. I really want these to be nice and close. Alright, so we've got him started. We got several wraps around, and I'm trying to shimmy them in a downwards, going up towards the base of this a little bit more, so that way they're nice and tight. And from there, you can change the weave. Since this is basically the beginning, these are mostly here for holding the piece together and continuing to start the weave. Basically, it's like your 3 wraps, but this is all one long piece. So it's okay to go around, you know, both wires in the beginning. And there's more than 3, but it's okay. Yeah, I never liked that look. So I won't do it. If you don't like the look, don't go for it. Maybe I'll just stick with this. Yeah, I'll go ahead and, well, yeah, there you go. Worked it too much. At least do one by itself and then just start going around and around. And just cut that tail off, you never know. I don't want to start putting my beads on too soon, so I want it to basically, I want to go ahead and wrap it as one single piece until it starts getting to the point where I can bring it around to the front. So go ahead and do that, and then that's when things are going to change just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and start bending these to go roughly into the areas that I want them to. And you are going to be lift. I'm just pushing upwards right there and bringing him Should do it. And now for this copper wire, I'm going to need to bring him up in the same way so that way he matches. There we go. So just brought him up with my thumbnail there. And go ahead and put one of these guys on, maybe. And he's going to go up the middle there. Go ahead and at least do 2 wraps on, including all 3 wires, just to help hold the stability here. The thing is, you're going to have to keep in mind as you're doing this, you're going to have to push this copper wire down so that way the bead can take its place amongst these 3 as you go. And if you didn't do what I did and put in a whole completely new wire, or at least you did put in a new wire, but the wire at least matches everything else you have, then it really won't be that big a deal. You could even use all 3 wires to make a nice design. But it is a pretty good rule of thumb that if you're going to be messing with metals, not counting these, colored pieces here, you can get away with having 2 colors. It's really, really hard to get away with 3 different metals, like for instance, copper, silver, brass. It is really difficult to mix that many different colors. Just going under here and trying to create a little bit of a lift here. And these guys are going to go outwards, outwards. You're going to come up in here. And now it is going to start getting just a little bit wider because I want to cover that whole area. Getting closer to that bead. Where that bead just kind of rests like that. And I am putting a little bit of force to get him to stay there. There's that. And then I'm going to pretty much just singularly wrap this one wire over here. He's going to turn solid green, and you're going to need a second wire if it's colored or otherwise to go up the other side. Probably going to use a foot of green for that part. Get myself a nice little tail that I can almost get a hold of. Now that should be able to get around that bead just fine. If anything, I might have to take a few off. I might have gone a little too far. So go ahead and do the other side. we got this bead nice and snug. I believe this will be enough to be able to go around him. So we'll go ahead and do that and start enclosing our little bead with our silver wire. And I'm going to bring, I'll just let him sit. Well, maybe not. I'm going to take my round nose here and get in here in the smaller area. And because I lifted him up, so that way that bead could basically take that place there, I'm going to turn around and put some of the copper wire to go back down, even, you know, kind of make a plateau up here. And go ahead and make sure nice and snug as you go around your little bead. I think I'm going to regret this and wish I just went ahead with smaller beads yet. Now, I personally feel that this particular style always looks best the smaller the beads you use, but that's just me. I've seen it where people have tried to achieve a similar look with this, but they basically like make a cage and then they put these great big stones in the side, and not my fave. There are people out there, I mean, you know, every artist doesn't necessarily, we can appreciate and find things that we like about somebody's piece that overall we may not particularly care for, you know, just like the rest of the world. You know, there's some art you like and some art you don't like, and but as artists, we do typically are able to find things about other people's work that we do enjoy. Take the good with the bad. All right. All right. And I'm just working it to where, trying to get all of this to be as close as I possibly can to this bead here. And really make it feel like that bead is coming up through. Now this piece is getting super, super short. I don't want to go too far with it, but I got just a little bit further that I want to go. And I'm going to go ahead and just finish this wire off by just wrapping it around this copper one here. tail layer. All right, so now I have a little bit of a gap here. I'm going to go ahead and start sewing that up from the previous wire that I added on. Go ahead and fill that in. Yep. Maybe. No, it's going the wrong way anyway. And this should be the last one. Oh, we're going to. I want a little bit more weave in there than that, so that little itty bitty bit. Otherwise, it's just gonna be studded full of beads. I got 5 I want to use. Odd numbers are great. If you do even numbers, things start to become hard to balance. If you know what I mean. Everything's so balanced that it doesn't feel like it has a middle any longer. So you do need an odd, or it's always a good idea to have an odd number. You work really hard at it, you can design something to look a little bit different. So, all right. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. All right, that's going to be the 6th wrap around. And I'm coming in here on top of what I spiraled through a little while ago. Yep. Nope, nope, nope. Come on. And I can start using these 3 wires together to make a weave as long as I get this copper wire. I really don't want him to show up myself. But here, so I can go around with 1, 2, 3, 6. Now we'll go back to the middle and just put a couple more. Whoop, let go. 1 around the middle, 2 around the middle. Oop, you moved on me. 1 moment. And go ahead and start closing that up a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Maybe more than I actually want. All right. More distance between than I really was planning on. gonna push this to be nice and tight. Now I want this to be just a little bit lower, where this is pretty much like the entire circumference of my bead here. I want this to eventually look like it's going downwards, kind of like how a flower slowly opens its petal until it completely blooms. Well, this is the top of the bloom where it's completely open, and the rest of these are just going to be kind of the progress. So that way you have a sense of movement in a static piece, and it draws people's eye up through the side. Not that your wire weaving isn't gorgeous enough to do it on its own. It's just another element that you can think about when you're doing this particular style. So I'm going to bring you down just a little bit. And if your wires are starting to shift and everything on you, don't play with them too much. I have a hard time not, so I understand your pain. You can adjust these back to where they're supposed to be once you get done with this part. A lot of moving going around and really adding extra movement and then moving again, it's not very good, and you're going to have a wire snap. That looks a little bit more closed than the other piece here, so we'll go ahead and finish this off. And that's pretty much where I want him to go. So I'm going to take him and shift him over to the middle piece to get him out of my way and to start covering up some more of this copper here. At this point, I'm starting to realize no matter what I do, it's going to show up, where, again, it doesn't look bad. I've only used 2 different metals. I might actually have to work in some copper someplace else as well. But it's not a big deal. Now, if you're not sure what I'm up to now, I've actually brought the copper piece up, and I'm wondering about a kind of waving, diving motion. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to want the distance to get a little bit shorter as I go. I'm probably not going to be able to get all 5 beads on here, but I think if I do 4 and I make this one practically closed because of the asymmetry of one, it coming from this direction, which is where I want this whole piece to pretty much curve along with that red. With additionally these slowly getting covered up more and more, I think that 4 might end up looking pretty good. So starting to wonder if this particular technique that I'm doing is why a lot of people use aluminum. Now, as I'm trying to space all this, I'm trying to think of how thick that bead is and how much of it's going to show up in the top part here. And I'm not going to worry about this guy being above for now. And I'm going to separate my 2 wires. Because they kind of ended up twisting together. This guy is going to come over here and go around this silver side. And then this guy's going to stay over here and go around this side. just bending and shaping as I go. Now that, you know, moving the wires back here, once I'm done with them, they're not going to get moved around because I've gotten so far as much. So start to shape things a little bit. Along the side like so. Yeah. This needs more work, obviously. I think I just gave it too much room. So we'll go ahead and undo that. Oop, come on. Now I just took my square nose and straightened all this out on the bottom here. That's all I did. I think I'm going to try to remove this bead for a few moments, but he does not want to go anywhere. Absolutely refusing. That looks quite a bit better to me. So I need to undo a little bit more of this green. Now, like I said, I'm making the distance in between shorter and shorter. So that ought to be just fine. Now you don't want to end up making this too small to where the bead shows up on the outside. That kind of defeats the purpose of the whole thing at that point. So I got it just to where it's just cupping the outside of that bead, plus by the time I wrap it, that'll take up more space. So, and you go that way, and the rest of you goes that way, like that, and then wrappy wrap. Now, honestly, as I'm going, I really think that smaller beads than what I'm currently using would have been better overall, but I do need to use up a lot of the stuff that I have around here. But I don't think that they are so grotesquely overlarge that they're going to detract from this piece overall, which is the important thing. It just probably overall would have been maybe easier to achieve this look if I had smaller. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this piece of copper shorter, about right there, enough room so that way I can put a little hoop there, little eyelet. For all that to grab hold of. See, hold on to your scraps. You never know when they're going to come in useful, right? And then we are just going to wrap everybody all together like a big old family. Got a little tail off in there. And I got another one. Since they're on the back side, I mean, they couldn't be in a better place to be hidden. And I'll end these guys inside of this hoop. Sorry everybody, my camera decided to stop recording. The battery died, but you didn't miss too terribly much. I finished scooching all these guys upwards. I decided to go ahead and hoop this guy. I cut off the excess. I curled him around and I hit him behind. He's pretty nice and neat, so it doesn't really add to the clutter. If anything feels cluttered, it's this little area right here. And I also came back up to the top of him, cut off all the excess, and then I went ahead and hooked him around this back wire here. So nice and neat, or at least neatly ended. Now, as far as these two wires here, this outermost wire went up, turned into a curlicue, came round, and he kind of comes round the back and comes back up to make this guy over here, which is just a little hoop, and then the outermost one, he went around and made this hoop. And he ended up being short enough that I just ended up ending him in the back by curling him around something else. So it does look a little bit cluttered right in here, but it does look better than a lot of other pieces do. Let's see here. I've already been recording for an hour and 40 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video right here. Now we do have a little bit more to do. I did pull this guy out and decided to bring him through the back, and he came up through here. Bring him around and make him into the necklace piece where we'll put our thread through. So nothing too big there. And if I just wanted to end him, I could just nip him and have him hook around on this wire here. This wire is just this wire where we went round, and then there's a body of it's underneath this red, came round, up, went underneath, and then I just decided to bend him so that way he fits this shape a little bit better. And we could do all kinds of things with him from there, which one of them could be and might end up being where we take him and thread him through underneath what we just did and add some more textures that way. Think about this particular style of weaving as any empty space, like for instance you could see through here, is kind of a negative, so you keep wanting to fill that space. So that's kind of the name of the game here. And we got plenty of wires. We still got these two over here, this guy here, and this guy here to do it with. The next part to this piece, and we'll be moving on to the next piece. It looks like it's going to be a 4-parter instead of a 3-parter, and I try to guess how many parts it's going to end up being, and I don't always get it. I wasn't anticipating the kind of purling along the side here to take as long as it did, but you know. So please like, subscribe, make comments, leave me comments in the comments section down below, or you can send me messages. I do have Instagram you can send me messages on. You can send me messages through YouTube as well of anything that you would like to do. June, I might end up not doing any requested videos, just because that is like the month that everything happens in. That's when all the art shows are. That's at least where I live. That's where all the farmers markets are really getting hit hard. It's just the busy season for artists. I may end up putting some of those off until later, but we will get this done before then. So like, comment, favorite, subscribe, do what you guys do best. Sharing my videos helps me out beyond belief. You have no idea. I hope you all had a wonderful day, and thanks for coming and hanging out. Bye!